Hello and welcome to Ageless and Loving It. I'm your host, Leslie Prestel, Director of the McCracken and Hickman County RSVP, otherwise known as the Retired and Senior Volunteer Program. We are a federally funded program that connects individuals age 55 and older with meaningful volunteer opportunities in the community. And today I'm joined by Eddie Jordan.
Good morning.
Morning, Eddie. Yes, whatever it may be. Eddie, you are an RSVP volunteer as well as the coordinator of the Senior Medicare Patrol program.
Yes, ma'am.
And can you tell us how you got connected with the RSVP?
Well, we retired from a job in New Jersey a little over 2 years ago, and we did looking forward to those things we'd never done. We wanted to travel, I wanted to read, all those exciting things. And so after my 70th birthday, we decided maybe it's finally time to go retire and do those things. And so we moved to Paducah, beautiful town, by the way. And we sat around about 3 weeks and said, this isn't working. We have to do something. So my wife Pat and I, we came to the senior center one day and saw the sign, Retired and Senior Volunteer Program, and talked to you about what the opportunities might be that we could get involved with some activity here in Paducah. You were very gracious. You asked us what would we like to be involved in, kind of the things we would like to do. I shared a story about having seen this video before we left New Jersey of grandparents rocking preemies at the hospital, and I decided that's what I wanted to do, but you and fate had other things in store for us, apparently. We left your office and you said you would give our name to a couple of agencies and they would call us and coordinate with us to get involved with one or the other of them. When we went home, we had 2 calls, one from a local daycare center asking if we'd be interested in reading to children during the day, and that kind of fit what we wanted, but the second call was from the Red Cross wanting to know if we'd volunteer, and this was at the time 2 years ago when the flood happened here in May of 2011. And so that had more urgency for the moment, if you would. And so we returned that call first. From there, you kind of know where we went to.
Right. So tell us what you do. What do you do with the Red? Now, there's a difference between Red Cross Blood and Red Cross Disaster, correct?
Yes, there is. There's 2 different groups here in town. The blood bank is located down near the mall. And they're the ones people should call if they want to schedule donating blood, which, by the way, they need a lot of all the time. We belong to the disaster group, which is on North 8th Street here in town, and we're primarily involved in what's called client casework. We work one-on-one with victims of fires. Their house might burn down, or in the case of what got us initially involved, the flooding, which a lot of people lost their homes and their belongings. And so we work one-on-one with them.
So that happened, you said you started during that flood, and I think I said, oh, you can volunteer, just a few hours a month. And how much did you end up volunteering within the first month?
Well, first month, it was 13 days nonstop. They put us in the call center taking calls from victims wanting to schedule someone to come out and meet with them doing the client casework, which we now got involved in. And we just felt that was something that we wanted to pursue. So when the 13 days was over and the operation was closed down, we got together with Jessica Torn, the director of the local Paducah area chapter, and joined the chapter and then started taking training to be able to do the things that we saw other people doing.
So that snowballed. We have some people who and they do just a few hours a week at the Red Cross answering phones. But you and your wife, Pat, decided to take it to a whole nother level. And so you have traveled. You mentioned traveling the country. And
this 13 days we worked in the operations center here. We met people from all over the country. Since this was a national disaster due to the size of it and the number of people involved, they brought people from different parts of the country with specialties in dealing with client casework, with doing disaster assessment. We have people go out and decide what's the damage, how extensive is the damage, people that need the help the most initially, kind of prioritize things. There's a lot of different things involved. Feeding, we had a shelter set up that Jessica and the team locally opened up. It takes a lot of people to do all of that.
Now, did they just throw you out there? The Red Cross said, here you go for it.
No, fortunately not. However zealous we may want to be and think we know what we're doing, the Red Cross, as well as most of your other organizations, are going to ensure that we're trained. We took extensive training to do the client casework and some of the other jobs. One of the things we like to do is drive that emergency response vehicle. It looks like an ambulance, but it's red and white. The Red Cross uses those to either feed hot food to first responders or people that have lost their home and living in a shelter, serve them hot meals during a flood or some other event. We also drive those around neighborhoods and hand out cleaning kits and water and snacks to people that are trying to recover their life. And so we enjoyed doing that. And we took a lot of training before they let us go out and do that.
And now, aren't you the trainer of trainers right now? You went all the way.
Yes, I just can't leave well enough alone, maybe. But no, both Pat and I decided we would like to be trainers and help other people attain some of these skills so that they can go do the same thing. And so we also teach advanced courses to people to enable them to do that.
And that's a lot in 2 years to go from, I've heard of the Red Cross, to what you do now, because where all have you been in the country?
We've deployed in the 2 years. We've deployed for 8 different disasters across the country. We've made 2 trips to New York for Hurricane Isaac a year and a half, 2 years ago. Last year for Hurricane Sandy that went up the coast and caused extreme damage up in New Jersey, New York area. We've been down in Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, recently in Illinois up near Chicago for local flooding there. And then we just returned from 10 days in southwest Texas, where it's very hot, by the way. They received 17 inches of rain in 36 hours in this little border town and really caused extensive flooding damage. And so the Red Cross responded to that.
Now, a lot of people are saying, this sounds like something I could do. What's the cost of, getting to New York?
I don't know.
I mean, for you personally.
No, personally, no, I really don't know. The Red Cross pays our expenses when we deploy. They give us initially a preloaded debit card with some amount of money on it for our incidental expenses and meals that we may incur while we're traveling and while we're there. They pay for our lodging, which may be in a shelter. Sometimes our clients are put in shelters because there's not hotels or other facilities available for them. And then we have often stayed in a shelter just like that. They pick up our travel expense, otherwise airfare or a rental car, whatever we may need to get from here to there and do our job while we're deployed.
So some people are probably saying, wow, that sounds pretty nice. What happens if they go and try to make a vacation out of it?
Can't do that.
Nope.
No, can't do that. The normal day when we're in the field starts about 7 o'clock. It may end at 7, it may end at 9 at night. It's when the client's needs are met, then we get to take a break. And sometimes that takes 12 hours, 14 hours a day for a number of days. Now, we're required to take a day off every 8 days. Sometimes you just get so involved in this that you lose track of the time and the days, and it's just something you do. And so we're forced to take a rest break and kind of regroup ourselves.
So at this level of volunteerism, to go out, you have to be very committed, be flexible. Now, I heard some people still have full-time jobs, but will go out.
When we initially got involved with this, that first thing here in Paducah, one of the gentlemen that we worked with and got some training from works in a car manufacturing plant down in Tennessee, and he saves his annual vacation to respond to national disasters, and that's commitment. I don't think I have that commitment, but I do work. We're going to talk a little bit later here in the program about my other job that I have 3 days a week. Fortunately, Gwelda at the Senior Center and you, my boss out in Louisville for the Senior Medicare Patrol, understand our commitment and support that. So I'd take some time off and respond to these, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on.
We will. Before we go to our video break, you brought something along from the Red Cross.
Yes, I brought the vest here, and I'll just hold that up for a second.
You want me to hold it up with
When
you?
we're responding for the Red Cross, we're required to wear this red vest, so people know when they see us who we are. It also has an ID pocket that has my personal ID with picture badge. So I encourage, like all people, if somebody comes to your door and says, I'm from the Red Cross or whatever, that you ask to see some ID before you communicate any information to those people. But if you see somebody in a red vest, people know when we're at a disaster, if they see a red vest, they can go to that person and get some help or direction to get help.
So any individual, if someone wants to volunteer locally for disasters or go somewhere else in the country, they will have one of these vests.
Yes, they will.
With
We do
an
have a
ID.
lot of local volunteers. We have fires here in Paducah quite often. My wife and one of the other ladies recently responded to a fire out in Reedland at a mechanic shop where they went and provided refreshments to the fire department that were there. It's very hot this time of year. These guys, I admire them. All that heavy equipment they have to wear in 95 or 100-degree heat require a lot of liquid and an occasional break. So we respond and support those guys when we can.
Wonderful.
So it requires a lot of people, so I encourage people to volunteer.
Right. If you're interested in volunteering for the Red Cross, what number should they call?
The local office is 270-442-3575, and they should ask for Allison. She's a volunteer coordinator in the office, and she will get them started down the path of explaining, and they'll take some initial orientation classes to show them what's available for them to do, what they might be interested in, and then set up training classes to support that effort.
Wonderful. You can also contact the RSVP at 270-442-8993, and we can also connect you to Allison at the Red Cross. We're going to take a break here and switch to the Senior Medicare Patrol. You have brought a video about the SMP.
Yes, if we can go ahead and show that.
We'll do that, and we'll be right back.
I know the best card you're holding.
You do?
Your Medicare card. But don't let me or anyone see it except your doctor or their staff.
And don't tell anyone your card or social security number over the phone.
Guard your card.
I hear unauthorized card use is a big source of fraud,
The new healthcare law lets us crack down on criminals and win against fraud.
making Medicare stronger.
And speaking of winning, learn more at stopmedicarefraud.gov.
Addie, can you tell us what that video we just watched has to do with your volunteerism?
I'm in a different position here because I'm now one of the jobs I got, thanks again to you, and then leading me to this position, local project coordinator for the Senior Medicare Patrol here in Western Kentucky for the counties of Ballard, Carlisle, Fulton, Hickman, McCracken, and Marshall. Can't remember all of them, but
You go everywhere.
go everywhere. It's quite a thing, and what I do is help educate seniors on how to recognize Medicare fraud and then what steps they can take to report that and get help to deal with it.
So a lot of people heard Senior Medicare Patrol. Can you give us a little bit more detail about this program and what it is that the Senior Medicare Patrol does?
Well, it doesn't do what I thought when I first saw this. I could visualize in my mind when I first saw the ad for Senior Medicare Patrol of a bunch of seniors patrolling the street like Charles Bronson, the Avenger movie series from my younger days. No, it's a very conscientious organization that's funded by the government on a grant to help educate people again on how to recognize fraud. But we also assist when they're becoming eligible for Medicare, getting ready to turn 65, to show them what Medicare options they have available to them, whether it's a Plan A or a B or a supplemental plan, prescription drug plans. We work with them to show them what plans are available and what might best fit their needs.
And I bet that's very popular as people are signing up for Medicare. There's so much information that it's very confusing.
Oh, they get inundated starting before their 65th birthday. Every insurance company in the country starts sending brochures and pamphlets, and you need to do this immediately. You need to sign up now, today. And people get quite concerned when they start getting those informations because they're afraid that they might lose a benefit if they don't sign up with a company immediately. And I tell them, starting 3 months before their 65th birthday and extending to 3 months after their 65th birthday, they can enroll in a Medicare plan. They don't have to start enrolling as soon as all this information starts showing up.
So if they have any questions, they need to call your office at 270-442-8993, which happens to be the phone number
Same
for the
number you
RSVP
have,
as well,
right.
right across the partition. Make an appointment with you.
Yeah, so they'll talk to Carol, which they met on one of your other segments,
Mm-hmm.
that works in the office and supports both of our programs.
And she'll make an appointment. Now, we encourage people not to just come in and see if you happen to be there to ask questions.
Right. I'm normally in the office on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays
Mm-hmm.
from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., but I'm out a lot because I make presentations to senior groups in these different counties.
And
so
you're
I'm not-
volunteering through the Red Cross.
And I'm volunteering through the Red Cross. So again, yes, thank you for bringing that up. So I'm not always there even on the days that I'm planned to be there. So it's always best to call and let Carol schedule a time when she knows I'll be in the office to talk to you. Make a plug real quick. The open enrollment period for Medicare is coming up in October. It starts October the 15th through December the 7th. And we'll get a lot of people coming in interested in changing maybe their prescription drug plans, looking at different options that are available to them.
Now, you do that, but what about if someone looks at their Medicare statement and they say, oh, this doesn't seem right? What do you
my.
suggest they do?
Oh my. Well, we have this brochure, a little booklet. It's called Personal Health Care Journal, and I give these out to seniors every time I make a presentation or have one of your senior health fairs. We hand these things out, and I tell people, fill this out. Every time you go to a doctor, every time you get a prescription, anytime you have a test done, you go to the hospital, record it in the book. Then when you get the Medicare summary notice from Medicare or the explanation of benefits form from your insurance company, put them down side by side. And it says on a certain date, Medicare paid for this particular treatment. And you pull out the healthcare journal, is that what you actually had done on that day?
And if they notice there's a discrepancy, and some people just say, oh, this was only $10, a mistake, we'll just let it go. How can that be more than just a $10 mistake?
Well, yes, it can ripple quite a bit. First is they need to correct it. The main problem that comes up is if Medicare pays for some treatment or some test that you didn't receive, but they paid for it, and in the future you need that treatment or test, Medicare may deny it because they've already paid for it. And then it becomes a difficult task to prove that perhaps you didn't get it at that time.
And we've had a local example of something happening that a lot of people didn't notice, but one person said, hey, wait a minute.
Somebody listened to the message of reading your Medicare summary notice. We had a gentleman last year that got a flu shot at one of the clinics that are at the drugstores and different organizations during the flu season. And he got the flu shot, and 3 months later they got the Medicare summary notice, and his wife was very diligent about looking at these things and noticed that Medicare had also paid for a pneumonia shot in addition to the flu shot. Well, it's not a lot of money. It's like $105 or so, but he did not get the pneumonia shot. And so she called and said, what do we do? Because he didn't get this shot. And so I asked her to bring in the paperwork, and I ended up contacting the company that put on the event, and they verified that in fact it was billing error. They had not given him the pneumonia shot, which was great, and they said they would correct that. However, over a period of a month, it evolved that he wasn't the only one that had this problem of being billed and Medicare paying for something that they hadn't received. I don't know what the final count of that number was. It may be hundreds or 1,000. I don't know, but it was much bigger than just one person. So if somebody sees something, they may say, yeah, it's only $100 and Medicare's paying for it. Why do I care? Well, two reasons. One is you may need that treatment in the future. He may in the future have wanted to get a pneumonia shot and wouldn't have gotten it paid for. And second is if you multiply that by how many events it may happen across the country, it could be a lot of money. And that comes out of our pocket.
Right. So how much per year does the government estimate is being spent in fraudulent Medicare billing?
Leslie, I don't even know how to say this number is so big. They're estimating that the annual fraud that Medicare pays for is somewhere between 60 and 80 billion dollars a year.
Billion with a B.
Big B.
$1 billion.
Billion dollars.
And how much last year did the Medicare fraud, how much did they actually find?
They're saying that the number is going to be around $4 billion.
$4 billion.
$4 billion sounds
Yeah.
like a lot until you look at the other side again
60
of the
billion.
60
That's
billion.
a lot
yeah.
of money. And the first step to stopping that is people looking at their Medicare statement.
Absolutely, true statement.
Okay.
They're the first line of defense. It's the person that looks at the statement and says that's not right.
Okay.
And then takes a step to correct it.
It does. Okay, now you had mentioned open enrollment. How do you, that's a lot of people. How do you see all those people with just yourself?
Well, I don't. Thank you. And that's one reason we're having this conversation, because in addition to being a volunteer, I need volunteers to help me do my job. I have a number of people that work at the senior center helping me, all these brochures. I have little flyers that I hand out at different organizations and functions that I go to, and each one of them has a label on with my contact information on it. And so these ladies are very helpful. I take them a couple of hundred of these things down, and then they put stickers on them for me. I have a lady that when I'm traveling for the Red Cross that I call and say I'm going to be gone for a week or 2 weeks or whatever that period may be, and I need you to fill in. She's been trained to do counseling one-on-one to assist people, whether they're looking for a Medicare plan or drug plan, or if they're having billing problems that need to be resolved. She's qualified to deal with those. And so when I go on deployment, I call her, and she's available to help people while I'm gone. So there's no gap there. I need people that can do that.
What kind of training is involved in becoming a volunteer for you?
It varies. To do the stickers, everybody's required to take about an hour-and-a-half class on what is Senior Medicare Patrol and what their part is in fulfilling that requirement. To do the one-on-one counseling, to work with people directly, to share their information, because we're going to know a lot about them that is not general knowledge and it's very confidential to the beneficiary. Those require a background check and up to 14 hours of training. Now, the training we can spread out over a period of time. A volunteer doesn't have to say, oh my God, I don't have 2 days that I can commit to going in and having training. We can work that out an hour or two a day over some period of weeks to get them qualified.
And is there any fee for this training or the background check?
No, we cover that expense. You were talking about fee. Should have brought up when people come in and ask for help, there's no fee for that either. As I said earlier, I'm funded on a federal grant. There's no charge for any service that senior Medicare people provide to a beneficiary.
So you need volunteers now and a
Now,
lot?
immediately.
Immediately.
Immediately. Particularly coming up during the open enrollment period, because we'll be seeing in a very short period of time 100 to 200 beneficiaries. Each one of those, we need to give them sufficient time, and it usually takes maybe up to an hour to go through and look at the different health plans that are available, what the cost may be to them, what it would cost them to buy their prescriptions, those kind of things. So we want to make sure we give them a lot of time, and it takes a lot of people to do that. So I need help, and so starting now to get trained and be able to feel comfortable. I also need volunteers to do presentations. If there's someone out there that enjoys speaking to groups, sharing information, helping seniors, I've got a perfect job. Go out and explain how to recognize fraud, how to deal with billing errors, how to help people do that. I need people that would like to do that.
Okay. Now, you mentioned going out and doing presentations. I think you get a lot of people who contact you as a result of that. What are some, real quick, some of the things that you talk about?
One of the things we talk about is billing errors, and that's one of the most frequent problems I encounter with people is they get a doctor bill or they get a hospital bill and they look at it and said, I don't understand this. I don't think that's what the doctor did. The billing is wrong. What should I do? And I ask people, first thing you should do is just call the doctor's office and explain why you think there's a problem with the bill.
Because sometimes it's just an honest mistake.
It's just a mistake. You know, we're all human, and well, we frequently say, well, it's the computer's fault, but billing errors do occur, and doctors are quite happy. Billing departments are very happy to work with clients to get that resolved.
So for the individuals out there who say, oh, I love my doctor, I don't want to get my doctor in trouble, you say,
no, don't
you won't
worry
get in
about
trouble.
it. Doctor, no, nobody knows about these things. First of all, nobody sees this except me and dealing with the client and them dealing with the doctor. Sometimes they don't feel comfortable dealing with a doctor or calling somebody. I'll do that on their behalf. I ask them to sign a release of information form, which gives me permission on their behalf to speak for them to the different organizations, and I'll call the doctors and do it for them. But there's no repercussions here.
Okay.
It's to solve the problem, and everybody involved wants to do that.
Now, when we talk about fraud, a lot of people say, oh, I'm so embarrassed. Someone called and I gave them my Medicare information, but now I'm thinking maybe I shouldn't.
Now, you've been listening to one of my phone stories, I guess. I have a story I've told numerous times that you know of is the person that called last year and said, I know I might have done something wrong. I listened to one of your presentations and you said, don't ever give your Medicare number to anyone on the phone that you don't know. You know, you got to give it to your doctor and the hospital and your pharmacist and to me if you need help. But she said, I think I messed up because I gave it to a person on the phone that was wanting to sell me a back brace. And so I said, you did the right thing. If you got the number and know who you talked to, fortunately she had copied down the phone number and the name of the company or whoever they said they were when they called her. And I was able to get a hold of the company and convince them that they should probably reverse that decision and not pursue it. But we raised a flag to watch her Social Security number and make sure there's not any oddball billing statements coming in against that.
So we have just less than a minute left. What do you want to tell people about Medicare, their Medicare card, just something the community really should know?
Don't give that number to anyone. If somebody calls you on the phone and said Medicare can give you something for nothing, don't be nice. Don't say I'm not interested. Just hang up the phone. Turn it off right there.
Right.
Never give your contact information. Don't share bank accounts. Don't charge cards, because these people are experts. If you talk to them, even to say I'm not interested, they'll get you engaged, and the next thing you know, you've shared something you should not have shared. Just hang up the phone.
Medicare will never ask you for your number.
Never ask you. They've got it. Why would they call and ask you for your number?
Right. And scooters are not free. They are no
not.
cost.
Medicare does not pay 100%.
Okay.
You know?
All right. Any questions that you may have for Eddie Jordan, please call the office at 270-442-8993. We had so much more to talk about, but unfortunately, we ran out of time. If you are interested in volunteering, please call us at, again, 270-442-8993. We have a bunch of nonprofits in the community that we would like to refer you to. So, Eddie, thanks for joining us. I think you had one video.
I have one video. If we would just show that as we're exiting, maybe.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you.